paper, just in case you didn't have it. It would be better to have it than not.
Is this the one that has some sample questions?
Yes, yes.
I like this one better. Yes, nice and color. Same color.
All right. I'd like to go ahead and call the meeting to order. If I could have a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Okay, can I have a second? Second, Sarah. Okay. Any discussion about the agenda? All in favor? The next item on our agenda is to review the criteria and develop interview questions. And each of you have a hard copy of the principal decision-making KRS from the Kentucky Department of Education. So there's lots of things in here that you can read. And I know that we've already read through that, but I want to go through a little bit of an exercise first, if that's okay. What I went ahead and done is I've gotten a chart that's actually in the back of the book. And there's 3 different categories I thought that we would talk about. You've got sticky notes on your desk and you've got an ink pen. And so what I thought we would do is just take a few minutes, each one of us, to think about, based on yourself and your experience and or the folks that have talked to you about what you want, which would be teachers, parents, community members, because I'm sure a lot of people have come to you about different kinds of things, your kids. But what would be some, principal priorities? Principal priorities, personal characteristics, and professional capabilities. It directly correlates to, and if you want to look in the back of your training manual, it's Appendix D on page 36. And my thought is if each one of us takes a minute and kind of writes down some different things, one characteristic or one capability, and, and there could be multiple items that you want to put under each thing, but that way every single person in here has a voice. You feel like that you've represented the folks that you represent. I think that will give us that criteria that we're talking about, and then that will actually help us select our interview questions. Does that make sense? And if you'll look under principal priorities, what it talks about is to consider is what are the school needs and what or how should they be prioritized? Okay. And then under personal characteristics, what qualities would work well with the student body, the faculty, and the classified staff? And then professional capabilities, what does he or she need to be able to do, or what kind of experience do you hope he or she has that could help with the school and its population? So I thought we'd just go through and write down, for instance, I would say one of mine would be the ability to communicate with a variety of people. And so that would be one, and then I would post it up on, under characteristics. To me, that's something that regardless of what you have to have the ability to communicate. So I would write that down, and then I'm going to write down different characteristics or capabilities on this, and then we're going to go up, we'll social distance, we'll take our turn, we'll put those up. I'm sure we'll find some things in common, and then that way it'll make, I think, selecting the questions that we're going to ask more efficient. How's that sound? Does that sound okay? That way everybody has a voice. Okay, so yeah, just some target things, and we'll just get started. Looks like we've got everybody's up there, and so I'll just go through and look at principal priorities. I know this is a little bit hard to see if you're viewing from at home, but what I see is high expectations for all students as a principal priority, promote unity among students and staff, support in teacher needs in the classroom, both academic and behavior. School needs a safe learning environment for students, faculty, and staff. Discipline, provide a feeling of cohesiveness, so that's unity again that we hear. Promote equity, which is what we've heard, and provide safety. So that's two comments on safety. And also continue math and reading enhancement, especially for larger groups of students, this incoming children, because that grade level of fifth grade is going to be a big level, so that's principal priorities. So that's why I like to do this, because what you'll find is there's a lot of things that overlap. Then personal characteristics, communication, good listening skills, accepts feedback, actions and words, middle school age experience and understanding, qualities that work well with understanding the individual needs of student, staff, and faculty. And I think that's important. Sometimes when we say individual needs, we think it's just about the kids, but it's also about the individual needs of that classroom teacher and our faculty. Approachable, good communicator, friendly, fair, effectively manages the school council, students and staff, relationship building, open, easy to talk to, easy to trust, professional qualities, experience with middle school, the ability to lead professional learning, discipline, can make those hard decisions and also will support academic progress, experience in the classroom, organized, a good leader. They like a candidate that have knowledge of students with special needs and know it's me, not them, how to assist those children with special needs. Again, leader, I see that coming up, has a plan and knows how to get there. It's one thing to have a plan. I think we hear actions and words. All right, I'm old, so I can't read this, so it's my fault. Continuing the betterment of the school's offerings, more advanced tools for children to learn differently and effectively, like science labs and multiple ways, especially for math tutorials. The ability to recognize students and teachers' abilities and inabilities and correct learning and make adjustments for both students and learning and for teachers. Does that sound good? Okay, so to me, that kind of sets the tone of now, what kind of questions do we want to ask? So when we look at this, we can actually go over to our pages, and as you can see, there are multiple questions to pick from. I would not recommend that we ask all these questions. We want to go home at some point, right? I think a good first question is always, tell us a little bit about yourself, right? And if you all are okay with that, well, I can do this, great. So are you all okay with question number one? Tell us about yourself, right? All right. And so with all these things posted up on the board, are there any particular questions that jump out at you that you feel like that person could explain and would give you a better understanding?
I like number 2 on leadership, as far as what they consider their strengths as an administrator.
Okay.
That would give us an opportunity to see if they maybe think that we see if they can hit our bullets before we even have to ask about them.
I like questions like that because it's about what their philosophy is. Does that match what this council wants in their next principle?
That way we're not just hearing, they don't give us what we want to hear.
Right.
And I think that kind of goes along with, what do they see as their primary mission?
Right.
If we could kind of get a feel of what they think they can do for our school.
Okay. I think it's important because what is it that they want to accomplish? Now, because in reality, based on what they want to accomplish, does it address these needs here? My question would be, after that, how are you gonna do that? Right? Because it's one thing for me to say that I wanna do this, but tell me how you're gonna do that, right? Are you okay with that as a follow-up?
Yes.
Okay. Okay,
I was just looking at the one under conflict resolution, which goes along with what you just said, give 2 or 3 examples of strategies for dealing with conflict resolution.
that would tell you a lot about who that person is and how they deal with problems.
And there
And
are
how-
always problems.
Well, I
That
mean,
can
you
be
know.
student and staff,
Right.
student and staff.
Either, yeah, I mean, yeah.
Well, or what about, you know, even when we say things like, you know, when you got children that have special needs and children that are gifted, you know, how are you gonna deal with that,
Right,
you know?
that's a conflict.
I'd be interested to hear when we talk about experience, what's been your experience? Right? So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Of course, the last question is always going to be, is there anything, like, do you have a question for us? That's going to be a question. And then it'll always be, you know, is there anything that we didn't ask you that you want to share? So I'll throw that, you know, there at the end. Let's look at curriculum and instruction, because we've talked about students some. It's on page 32.
I like to explain the philosophy on educating students. I think that'll tell us a lot on where they stand and how they're going to help direct the teachers and the students,
Okay.
and whether or not it goes with what we're expecting from a new principal.
Okay. And do you like the follow-up question below that?
Yes. Yes, I like examples.
I agree. And I think that's what you all placed up here on the board. And we had some questions about discipline and safety.
I think it's just, we're gonna have a large number of kids in a small space, at least until the new wing opens up, and I think that creates some problems in and of itself, just because of the smaller space.
Okay.
We also have to keep in mind that some of these applicants may or may not have ever been a principal yet. So they may not be able to answer and give certain examples from their role as a principal. So maybe we'd be open to
Real life experiences instead of just.
And I think,
Solely based
right.
on principal.
And you know, when you talk about conflict resolution,
doesn't
could
have
have
to be
conflict in
Right.
a civic organization that you've been a part of,
Right.
or in your current role, or maybe you know, how have you dealt with students in your classroom with a conflict resolution? Because really, it's more about, does their, you know, beliefs and ways of doing things match what Mary Lane Middle School wants and needs? So out of those discipline questions, you know, what jumps out at you?
Question 6, share your method of dealing with students who is continually disruptive in class.
Okay. That happens, right?
Yes.
It does.
Well, and for the most part, I think if any time a student is sent, it's pretty much because of that repeated,
Right.
you know.
Right.
And then,
That's why I think that's something.
we can
good.
deal with just about everything else. You know, but that constant disruption is,
It's the constant, not just the one-time
Not
thing.
right.
It's a
I've
continuous.
already,
So what do you all think about question number 3? How would you explain the connection between safe and orderly schools and student achievement? Because obviously that safe and orderly is going to be how children transition from point A to point B, sets the tone for second period, sets the tone for third period.
do we assume that our applicants know that we're having this influx of students, or do we need to explain the situation?
I would assume that they do the research.
We hope so.
Well,
It's my opinion.
right, I mean, I would assume so, but
When you go in with this kind of position, typically folks have done the research.
to know what they're getting into. So we should expect a really good answer.
Four, five, 6, 7.
Thinking about that culture piece, the unity, that kind of.
Yep, that came up several times, didn't it? There's some good questions in there.
It is a culture. Under culture, I like number 3. In what ways would you encourage students who are not working up to their potentials?
Okay,
Because I'm sure that there are quite a few of them that are, and it's good.
I like 6.
I like 6 as well.
okay.
You build that positive relationship and that can most likely will try to live up to that. That relationship is there.
And maybe what we want, is it's interesting to hear what they have to say when you ask these good questions.
With having the NTI this year, I also like number 7. How would you involve parents more in students' education? Because that's been a really challenge for quite a few families this year.
And that may be something that we maybe throw in as, what if we don't start traditionally?
Mhm.
What,
Okay, so add that in.
Yes.
In the event we do not start on a traditional calendar, tell us how you will. Right?
Yes, I like that.
that way we can see what their vision might be.
We're up to 10. That's probably
I
plenty,
think that's ambitious.
especially with
Depending on
those
their
two.
answers.
Yes. Now, the next question is, would you want to have a performance event? In other words, one of these questions we would hand to the applicant, let's say 30 minutes ahead of time. So in other words, let's say interviews start at 2 o'clock. Person would show up at 1:30. They would be given a prompt. They would actually write an answer to that. They'd be given a time limit. And then we would actually see that prompt and how they communicated in written form. So you wouldn't just be reading the content that was provided, but also how they communicate that. And so in other words, if we had 10 of these questions, then we would have one less interview question, but something that in written form. That's typically something that councils do, because that person will be communicating via email or different things like that.
I like that idea. See how they can, give it. Because an incident that something is thrown at them and they have to come up with something right then and there. So I think doing the prompt is really a good idea of seeing how they can react quickly to a situation.
Think about our questions and
Which
what
one?
are we asked about, what would be one that we could form a.
The conflict with the students and that one, the conflict with the student in the classroom, maybe? Give me that question.
Or also explaining your philosophy on educating students. I mean, really, any one of these are gonna who accomplished 2 of those.
Is the one on philosophy, is that on the application online? You have to write or submit your philosophy of education.
Might be a teacher one.
It might be, I'm pretty sure it was one on my application.
Might be a teacher one.
Maybe. I don't know.
Philosophy of education.
Yes.
You would think I would have this memorized, wouldn't you?
I'm thinking I had to submit that.
There is
years
a
ago.
statement, talks about your personal characteristics as defined as an excellent administrator and technology. So, but you all will get a copy of all them, so you'll be able to see that. So, but I mean, I think any of these that you all identify, depending on which ones you identify, I can, normally what I do is I stagger it. So they'll actually come in ahead and then we'll start. And so that way you kind of, so while we're interviewing one candidate, another candidate will actually come in. So we kind of keep it rolling that way, just for time's sake, for everybody's time's sake. You all just tell me which question. Y'all have one that,
I like that one you picked about the conflict with students. That's-
give 2 or 3 examples of strategies,
Yes.
that one.
Yes.
Give 2 or 3 examples of strategies you have with dealing with conflict resolution.
Yes.
Okay.
Child that's not
Right.
For the
interested.
child that not working up to their
But
potential, is that,
either one of those are like,
For whatever reason that may be.
exactly.
well, my question would be, do they identify that there could be multiple reasons, right?
I like that.
Okay.
That one better.
All right, that'll be it, I'll take care of that.
I mean, I want them to be compassionate, I want them to be understanding, but I also want them to have a strong thumb that says, you know, look, there are certain things we can and cannot control, you know, and right now you're controlling this. So I need to see what their answer is on that.
Okay.
It's important to me. At this age, they're a couple of years with them driving. They need to understand that it's, life is not always gonna be what they want. So,
Y'all feel good?
I agree.
Okay.
It's scary. Yeah, it's scary. It's time to put your big boy and big girl britches on.
All of mine struggle with
Well, and it's gonna be a little bit different, you know, we normally have that bump up day, so if you're in the 5th grade, you get to come visit 6th grade. If you're in the, 7th grade, you get we have, and we don't have that.
No.
But rest assured, we will find a way to make that happen before the first day of school, so I'll work with our team to make sure that happens, but there's probably a lot of kids right now that are really nervous who are in the 5th grade, thinking about coming to the 6th grade, right?
Yes.
I'm sure that's true.
I know several of those.
Well, I mean, they're coming from 4 different schools.
Right.
And, usually we did team building and we did all those kinds of things, so. But we'll get that figured out. So if you all are okay with the development of the interview questions, we can actually move into a closed session where we can review applications. And then when we come out, we will talk about what our timeline looks like. And then we can announce what our next steps are for the interview process, if we're ready to go there.
Okay.
So I just need a motion to go into closed session. Beverly, okay,
I'll second.
okay. And Jill's gonna second. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay. It takes